Colorado's culture war, Shedeur Sanders, Jordan Seaton, and the truth nobody wants to talk about. Something big just went down in the college football world. And if you've been even loosely following the soap opera unfolding around Colorado's transfer portal situation, you already knew this moment was coming. Shedeur Sanders didn't stumble into calling out Jordan Seaton. He chose to. Deliberately, publicly. And the reason why tells you everything about what's really going on inside Coach Prime's program right now. This isn't locker room gossip. This isn't Twitter beef over nothing. This is a real, developing story about character, accountability, and what happens when players decide to rewrite history on their way out the door, and someone who actually lived that history refuses to let it slide. Let's break it all down. The pattern nobody was talking about, until now. Before we even get to Jordan Seaton specifically, let's zoom out, because this isn't an isolated incident, it's a pattern. Throughout the 2024 season and into the offseason, a wave of players left Colorado through the transfer portal, and a striking number of them didn't leave quietly. They walked straight into press conferences, interviews, and social media moments, and started throwing shade at Coach Prime, the facilities, the coaching quality, and the overall vibe at Colorado. We're not talking about one frustrated guy venting in a group chat. This became a recognizable, repeating behavior. Players would transfer to programs like Clemson or Tennessee and then use their shiny new introductory platforms to take subtle and sometimes not so subtle shots at the program they just left. London Merritt, for example, made comments strongly implying that Clemson's facilities and coaching setup were on a completely different level compared to what he experienced in Boulder. A quarterback who landed at Tennessee did the same thing, dropping little digs in media appearances that anyone paying attention could clearly read between the lines on. Wave after wave of criticism hit Colorado, and for a long time the program just absorbed it. No public response. No clapping back, just silence. That silence ended the moment Jordan Seaton sat down in front of cameras and started talking. What Seaton actually said, and why it matters? Jordan Seaton is an offensive lineman who came through the Colorado program before entering the transfer portal, and eventually committing to Clemson. In interviews after his move, Seaton painted a pretty specific picture. Colorado's facilities weren't elite, the strength and conditioning program wasn't where it needed to be, and he felt his physical development hadn't been properly supported during his time with the Buffaloes. The message was clear: Colorado couldn't give him what he needed to reach his potential. Clemson could. End of story. Except, here's where the facts become really hard to ignore. Jordan Seaton arrived at the University of Colorado weighing around 330 pounds. By the time he left, Colorado's strength and conditioning staff had transformed him into a 305-pound lineman, leaner, more explosive, and significantly more NFL-ready in terms of his physical profile. That transformation didn't happen by accident. It happened inside Colorado's facilities, under Colorado's coaching staff, using Colorado's resources. And there's documented photo and video evidence of this transformation. Publicly available, completely verifiable. You can look it up right now. So when Seaton sat in front of cameras at Clemson and suggested Colorado's development infrastructure was the problem, he was literally contradicting what his own body represents. You cannot credit your new school for a foundation that your old school built. That's not a matter of opinion. That's just a factual contradiction, plain and simple. Shedeur steps up, and why that hit different. Shedeur Sanders has built a reputation throughout his college career as one of the most composed, professional, and low-drama figures in the sport. He doesn't engage in social media spats. He doesn't take shots at other programs. His whole brand has basically been, let the performance do the talking. Which is exactly why it registered so loudly when he broke from that pattern. Shedeur didn't go on an emotional rant. He didn't make it personal or petty. He came with facts. He referenced the physical transformation. He pointed to the documented evidence. He acknowledged the real investment Colorado's staff had made in Seaton's development, and then made it unmistakably clear that the narrative Seaton was pushing simply didn't match reality. The heart of Shedeur's message was this: the program gave you everything you needed to develop, and pretending that didn't happen isn't just ungrateful, it's dishonest. But what made the call-out land so hard wasn't just the receipts. It was the deeper point Shedeur was making, about loyalty, about acknowledgement, and about the basic idea that the people who poured time, energy, and resources into your growth deserve to be recognized for that, not erased from the story when it becomes convenient. When the guy who never makes noise decides something is worth speaking on, people listen. And oh, did the internet listen? Coach Prime's message to the locker room. While Shedeur was handling the public-facing response, Coach Prime was delivering his own message directly to his current roster, and it deserves just as much attention. Prime told his players clearly and without any ambiguity, don't talk about your former schools, your former coaches, or your former programs. He used a sharp analogy to drive the point home. Talking about where you used to be when you're somewhere new is like bringing up your ex when you're supposedly in a better relationship. It's unnecessary, it reflects poorly on you, and it tells everyone watching that you haven't fully moved on. That message isn't just about managing headlines or protecting the program's image. It's about the competitive mindset Coach Prime has always tried to instill. The idea that real competitors are focused on what's ahead of them, not busy settling scores with what's behind them. The timing of Prime's message to the team, arriving right alongside Shedeur's public call-out of Seaton, created something that felt almost coordinated, a joint statement about what Colorado's culture is, and just as importantly, what it isn't. Current players got to see the right way to handle a hard situation in real time. Former players provided the contrast, and everyone watching from the outside could see the difference without needing it explained. Let's be honest about the real reason players are leaving. Here's the part of this conversation that often gets glossed over, and it's actually the most straightforward explanation for what's happening. NIL, name, image, and likeness money has fundamentally rewired how players make decisions about where they play college football. Programs like Clemson and Tennessee have bigger, more established NIL collectives with deeper pockets. They have longer track records of sending players to the NFL, which drives up a player's projected market value. When a player gets a significantly bigger financial offer from another program, taking it is a rational business decision. Nobody with any sense of fairness is arguing that players shouldn't think about their financial futures. The NIL era changed the rules. Players are playing by those rules. That's fine. The problem isn't the transfer. The problem is the dishonest story that follows. If Jordan Seaton transferred to Clemson because he got a better financial package, that's an honest and completely defensible reason. Say that, own it. But that's not what he said in front of cameras. Instead, he pointed the finger at Colorado's development infrastructure, a claim that his own body directly disproves. And yes, Clemson and Tennessee do have real advantages over Colorado right now in terms of established resources and NFL pipeline depth. That's just a fact. But having more money and history doesn't make a false narrative true. Colorado is a program in active development, and Coach Prime has never pretended otherwise. What's not okay is using that development gap as a convenient cover for a misleading story. The rebuild is already happening. Here's the irony that tends to get buried in all the noise. After a tough 2024 season, Coach Prime made serious, substantive changes to the program. The coaching staff went through a complete overhaul. New coordinators were brought in on both sides of the ball. Coaches with genuine NFL-level experience and credentials were actively recruited. Warren Sapp and others from the previous structure moved on. In other words, the players who transferred and cited coaching as their major reason for leaving. They were describing problems that Coach Prime had already identified, was already fixing, and had already begun replacing before their criticisms ever went public. The program diagnosed the issue before the press conferences did. That's not a coincidence. That's what it looks like when a decisive, self-aware head coach actually runs a program. And through all of this, Colorado has kept pulling in elite recruiting talent. Top-tier players are still choosing to commit to the Buffaloes under Coach Prime's leadership. Programs that are genuinely falling apart don't sustain that kind of recruiting momentum. The transfer drama has, if anything, sharpened that us-against-the-world mentality that Prime has always weaponized as fuel. And historically, that mentality produces results. What this means for Shedeur's legacy. Shedeur Sanders isn't just Colorado's quarterback. He's the defining face of this program's identity in its current era. Every decision he makes, every time he speaks, every time he stays silent, every way he handles the pressure of being Coach Prime's son and the public face of a program under a national microscope, all of it is stacking up into a legacy. His decision to publicly defend Colorado and challenge Seaton's narrative wasn't a snap reaction. It was a calculated, deliberate act of leadership. And it reflected a clear understanding that sometimes standing up in uncomfortable moments is exactly what leadership looks like, not waiting for the storm to blow over. For current players and incoming recruits watching this unfold, the message lands loud and clear. This is a program where the culture means something, where leadership is real, and where the people who built something together are expected to have each other's backs. when Shedeur eventually makes the jump to the NFL, and at this point it's genuinely a question of when, not if, he'll leave Colorado as more than a quarterback with impressive stats. He'll leave as someone who demonstrated, on the record, that character and performance don't have to be in competition with each other. That reputation doesn't disappear when you enter a professional locker room. NFL front offices and scouts evaluate far more than what happens on the field on Saturdays. Behavioral patterns, public conduct, how a player handles adversity, whether they show loyalty and professionalism under pressure, all of it goes into the evaluation. Putting bitterness and questionable grievances on public display is exactly the kind of character signal that gets quietly noted in scouting reports. Jordan Seaton making misleading public statements about a program that demonstrably invested in his development? That's a data point evaluators at the next level will factor in. Shedeur Sanders responding with documented facts, a calm delivery, and a clear defense of the program that built him? That only adds to the profile he's already been quietly constructing as a leader. The bottom line, in a college football world that increasingly runs like a professional business, reputation isn't just a soft, feel-good concept. It's a career asset. Players who exit difficult situations with class and honesty build careers that last. Players who choose to rewrite history for a moment of attention tend to find that those choices follow them a lot further than they ever planned. The players who left Colorado and took shots at the program on their way out have, through their own actions, answered the most revealing question you can ask about someone. What kind of person are you when things get hard and you have nothing left to lose by just being honest? Shedeur Sanders and Coach Prime answered that same question from the other side. They defended the truth without making it a circus. They addressed the dishonesty without losing their composure. And they sent a signal to recruits, to current players, to NFL evaluators, and to the broader college football world about exactly what the Colorado program stands for when the pressure is on. The next few seasons in Boulder will be the loudest response to everything being said in press rooms and on social media right now. Prime and Shedeur aren't wasting energy on the noise. They're building the answer. Thank you guys. See you next video.